For more on the geopolitical risks and their impact on the market, let's bring in Joe Moglia. He's the former TD Ameritrade chairman and CEO, who's here on set with us alongside Michelle Caruso-Cabrera, CEO of MCC Global Enterprises. Michelle, you know Carg Island well. You visited there back in 2016, seeing these facilities. You might be the only Western journalist ever granted access, which makes today's news, from your point of view, probably even more striking.
Yeah, so I don't believe that the president is going to order that every Iranian die tonight through attacks. I find that highly improbable, and I think you see the market reacting that way because of that. Carg Island, he's talked about taking Carg Island in the past, actually many years ago. We have Marines deployed to the region, so this is something I'm going to be watching tonight. Will he order the military to take Carg Island? Why that would matter? That is where 90% of Iran's exports leave from. That's how they get foreign exchange. That's how they get dollars. It is crucial for their economy.
Do you think, is there a little bit of a bait and switch going on where he's saying, warning about action over here on the bridges and on the power plants, but really there's a different operation going on, or is this all part of?
He likes to be unpredictable. He tells people that he likes to be unpredictable. So that's possible. I don't pretend to know what's in his mind. I think a lot of people come on TV and try to tell you what they think Donald Trump thinks. I don't know. And I don't think they do either. But certainly that is possible.
Should we be shocked, Joe, at how calm the markets appear? Markets are down a little bit today, but they've been up. Small and mid-cap stocks are actually higher this year.
Yeah, I don't know, Brian, if we should be shocked at this. I think that this has been going on for a while now. When the president had his speech the other night, he said it was 32 days at that time. It's 40 days or whatever it is now. So we've been kind of going back and forth anyhow. When the market thinks something good's going to happen, it reacts that way. Bad reacts that way. Right now, the market doesn't know what's going to happen tonight. Per Michelle's point, we don't know. We just don't know what's going to happen. We do know that the longer this goes on, we're going to have oil $125, $140, $150 a barrel.
You believe
that's going to be.
You believe it.
The longer it goes on, yeah. If this is still going on 30, 40 days from now, I can see us at 125, 130, 135. If it should have not come to an end. And I think the biggest concern that I've got when you think about the Iranian leadership and their mentality, they know they're not going to win this, but from their perspective, they don't have to win it. They just sort of have to wait us out. We're the ones who spend $1 million a missile, and they're spending $25,000 for a drone. Over a longer period of time, that's not a good thing for us.
So you're an active trader now, and you ran TD Ameritrade. So put on sort of the market hat. Okay, there's three, and if I'm wrong, say something. All right, there's three possible outcomes, really, tonight and into tomorrow. Number one, best case, we get some very positive commentary. It looks like we're working toward a real sort of peace deal involving nuclear, whatever. Best case scenario, I think markets rip higher, correct?
I'd agree.
Okay. Scenario two is we kind of get a punt, a taco, whatever you want to call it. Some positive words. Well, yeah, what they say is sort of that Trump always chickens out. We don't have it. Okay. It doesn't work. We punted a day or two. You're an ex-football coach, right? Or outcome three, which we don't want to think about, which is what the president kind of implied, said directly, this mass bombing of Iran. If that's the case, what happens?
The market's going to crash. I think the market's going to crash. I think as far as the individual investor goes, if you haven't made changes in your portfolio as of now, now's not the time to panic. You've got to be very careful. One of the things that we did when the war began was we had actually had a war strategy. We had a template, and we wanted to go long stocks like energy, natural gas, et cetera, national defense that we thought would do well. We wanted to be short cruisers and the airlines, and we shorted the S&P 500, the SPY. Tonight, to do something with stocks, we're not going to be able to do that. But good news or bad news, the SPY futures trade 23 out of 24 hours a day. They'll be trading later on. We'll miss the beginning of that move, but we would cover our short if it's good news. We'll add to it if it's bad news. The typical individual investor is not going to be able to do that. So you can't panic. If you haven't done much now, you're going to have to be able to ride it through.
I'm thinking, Michelle, what you said about oil and Carg Island and what may happen here. And there's been this weird logic where the U.S. has allowed for Iranian oil to move through the market on, to some extent, saying, look, any barrels in the market will keep the oil price lower for everybody. I don't know if we're trying to throw that scenario out now and say we don't really want them calling the shots. We don't want their oil to be the one that gets through. Like we're putting an end to that now, even if it results in a higher near-term oil price.
I think the thoughts about Carg Island are that if they take it, they're able to control more about how much oil actually leaves, right? Yes, ghost ships have been getting out. Iranians have been able to send oil to the Chinese, their customers, and the U.S. hasn't been against that because oil is fungible. The more oil that's out there, the lower the price is going to stay. Right. I think the way I continue to think about this always is to focus very much on what the Pentagon says on any given day. General Kane, day one, came out and said the military objective is to destroy Iran's ability to project power. That means we're going to destroy their missiles, we're going to destroy their Navy, and we're going to do anything. We're going to have air superiority. And I don't think this is done until they are convinced they have achieved that. Because that is the military goal of this exercise from day one.
Just last hour, we spoke with Charles Kupchan, who said he thinks they're surprised by the fact that Iran can still do all of these retaliatory strikes, hit planes and so forth. They didn't think they would still have this wherewithal at this point of the conflict.
So war games have been done in the past for many, many years where they've said, OK, what if Iran can get off 250 missiles at a time? And day one, they got off several hundred missiles. They got off several hundred drones. They've never been able to repeat that. They've gotten 40 drones, up to 80 drones, 40 missiles, 20 missiles. Some days it falls to as low as 7. Their ability to project power is definitely degraded a lot because the number of missiles that goes off every day is far smaller than it used to be, but they're not done yet. They always said 4 to 6 weeks. So we're at week 4.
But to Joe's point, I think earlier, as we found, and you were there, you saw Karg Island. It's not very big.
Tiny.
Apparently there's a gazelle of some kind.
There's supposaly gazelles there.
Whatever it is.
Gazelles. There's supposedly military equipment there as well. I never saw any of that either, but I was controlled, right? I had a binder. We moved with the jitney in a jitney.
But they can cause, and I've been to that region, you can do a lot of damage with a small bomb attached to a speedboat. You blow up one supertanker, Joe, and you scare everybody off. You scare the insurance markets off. You scare oil prices up. They know they've got the ability, I think, to damage the Western and American economy vis-a-vis oil prices. Do they not?
Well, that winds up going back to the point I was trying to make earlier, where the Iranians, the leadership with it, not all the Iranians, the leadership within Iran just has to wait this out. And the longer they wait it out, and the more of a problem is going to be for us. Oil prices are going to go higher. And while we know we're energy independent, we're also part of a global economy. If the rest of the world is paying much higher price for oil, we're going to be paying that as well. And that's going to have a real negative impact on trade. And the possible scenario there could be a global recession.
If Taiwan or South Korea cannot make microchips or memory chips or semiconductors because they have a shortage of natural gas or helium, which goes into all of these things. And that hasn't happened yet, but it gets closer every single day. If we get something like that, does the market fall 10%? Stocks here?
10% is a big number, but yeah, that could happen. Yeah, that could happen. I mean, the whole point, the way Iran wins this is by doing exactly what we're talking about now. They wait it out. Oil prices go crazy. Chip industry winds up having problems. There'd be a scarcity of supply around the world and all sorts of different things. It becomes a global recession. That's the problem. I think deep down, that's what the Iranian leadership is trying to do. They're not going to win, but as long as they have one drone left, as long as they can postpone the end of this, the rest of the world could potentially suffer from that.
Yeah, they're trying to raise the cost of the war for the entire economy and for the president.
Yes.
How are you, Michelle, thinking through the end game and how to, you mentioned watching the military officials for kind of their description of the campaign.
Of how it's going, right?
And how it's going and what the goals are. And, again, that's what the market's trying to get to.
Yeah, so yesterday when they held the news conference to talk about the very dramatic and amazing rescue of the airmen, and there was no update on the state of the war. And I didn't know if that was because they wanted to keep it very focused on the heroism, which was just incredible, right? But we haven't heard the latest. There are reports that come out every day out of Israel where you get a sense of how things are going, where they continue to target so many different locations in Iran. I mean, we've targeted 13,000 locations.
Wow.
It's a lot. We've gotten off 13,000 flights in that region. So they are highly degraded. Is it enough is the question.
And is it enough to what the president keeps basically saying he wants them to surrender their nuclear program, come to some kind of deal? Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
We hear different descriptions. It's being mediated through Pakistan. Steve Witkoff is in charge. J.D. Vance is involved. I don't know what the framework for a deal looks like at all. What I do know is the goal is to make sure they cannot keep bombing people in the region. They cannot keep sending missiles out. And now we've learned that they have much more ability to project much farther than they did when they tried to attack Diego Garcia. They'd always said that their ballistic missiles couldn't go that far. Well, guess what? Now we know they can. So I think the administration and the rest of the world gets nervous as well as to, OK, just what is left there.
Well, we got about 6 hours to the 8 o'clock Eastern time deadline that Trump has imposed. Again, we do not know what may happen, what will happen. The world, I think, Joe, it's fair to say, is going to be watching. And to your point, there are things that trade almost 24/7. Nowadays, any positioning you're making between now and tonight?
We actually looked at the options market. You could maybe have puts or calls for 24 hours, even 48 hours, whatever it might be. But the cost of those is so now expensive. The volatility with regard is just so expensive. It didn't necessarily make sense for us to do that. Plus, we're really investors that do a decent job of paying attention to our portfolio, and we'll adjust them when we need to. We're not like crazy traders. So that we looked at that this morning. We don't think that makes sense. But we will be ready to either add to the short or cover the short and maybe add to a long if something good or bad happens tonight. Anything in the middle of that, we stay pat.
All right. We'll leave it there. Thank you both so much for your time. Michelle Caruso-Cabrera. Joe, actually, we'll see you a little bit later in the show. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, and just a quick reminder, folks, you can sign up for our forthcoming energy-related newsletter called Power Insider. It's going to be a weekly piece, key news, meeting power players, and more. It's going to launch next week, April 15th. Use the QR code. Sign up today. All right, coming up, an exclusive